The Literary Corner, brought to you by New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity. Hi, this is the most amazing collection I have read so far. I'm a reading-aholic. Dustin Pickering, you know me from Parrot Literary Corner. This is the Literary Parrot, available at Amazon.com and its various affiliates. If you have not seen this collection, it's 249 pages of glorious global literature in a contemporary vein. This covers a lot of subjects from the coronavirus to violence on the streets, to love, to romance. Everything you can imagine is in this collection, and you should buy it now. I'll tell you why. It's a collection of unique voices from the Literary Parrot. People have been on our show, have been participated in this, or have been published on our website, newyorkparrot.com. So please, I implore you, buy a copy. Thank you, and
Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Hi, welcome to New York Parrot's Literary Corner. I'm Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host. I was recently informed, sadly, a dear friend passed away, and I'd like to dedicate this show to him. His name was Julian Walden, aka Mara Alhim. He's a good friend. He was a wonderful literary person and a wonderful person, larger than life, so he will be missed. And thanks for his presence in our lives. And today we have Damian Ward Hay. His poetry has appeared in many journals, most recently The Raven's Perch, E-Ratio, Neologism, Jerry Jazz Musician, and Rat's Ass Review. He has also published with Heroin Love Songs, Cajun Mutt Press, Voices from the Fire, Black Flowers, Madness Muse Press, Formidable Woman Sanctuary, The Rye Whiskey Review, They're Conspiring Against the Alien Buddha, and Birth Lifespan Volume 1, Pure Slush. More will be published shortly, and the anthologies Poets with Masks On and Milagros Easing the Edges. Hay has a BA in English from Columbia University and a PhD in Comparative Literature from Stony Brook University. For the past 25 years, he has been a professor of English on Long Island and is the founding editor of Stone Poetry Journal, which you can find at stonepoetryjournal.com. Thanks for joining us today, Damian. I hope you're having a great day.
I am, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to.
And thanks to Rick as well for inviting
Rick Christensen. He's one of your anthology.
Yes, he's a wonderful guy. I just want to say thank you, Rick, here publicly on our YouTube. And remember, our viewers can comment. If you'd like to leave comments during the show, we'll put them up on here so you can see any questions you want to ask. Just feel free to share. So my first question is, it seems like you're very prolifically published. What is your secret to that?
Sorry, could you repeat it? I was trying to express my sympathy for your recent loss.
Oh, very sorry to miss that. Seems like we're missing. There's a little bit of a partial network issue. It's kind of slowing you a little bit. But yes, thank you so much for that. What I was asking was, what is the secret to your being prolifically published?
Send stuff out, write a whole bunch, look for things, look for, go to Duotrope or go to new pages, go to Google even and look at the top 100 poetry magazines and just write and send out. It's gotten a lot easier to communicate with these various magazines and journals since the internet. You don't have to send stuff out through paper anymore. You can just, from your iPad, right? You can just send things out, and they respond. And usually it's relatively quick, or sometimes it's a couple of months. So that's what I can say, and just keep doing it.
How do you handle rejection? I mean, do you aim? There's an old sort of like a new rule of aiming for 100 rejections a year. Do you follow that, or do you just do your thing?
I don't like it too much,
Hmm.
but I don't think anyone likes it. I mean, they said that Stephen
Right.
King would put he had a nail by his writing desk, and whenever
Yeah.
he got rejections, he would put the rejections right next to where he was writing, and then he just continued
Hmm.
writing. And apparently, William Faulkner, would wallpaper his walls with his rejection letters. Um, Me, I
Mm.
get them in through Submittable, and if they're rejections, I throw them out, and then I put them in just so that I don't have to look at it again. But I
Right.
do put down a little R next to my in my own files next to the packet that I sent in, um, and that's how I know where I've sent things and whether they've been accepted or rejected. Um, it's everyone gets rejected. I won't name names here, but recently I had something that was accepted, and some 9 months later, I got a letter saying that it was rejected, and I thought, that's a new one, right?
That's quantum entanglement for you in the
Yeah,
publishing world.
yeah. Well, it's uh, but what can you do? It's
Yeah.
just it
I
is.
guess they're inconsistent sometimes. So
So,
as an editor, does your responsibility as an editor, does that ever make you feel differently about rejection and acceptance?
well, it makes me feel more empowered to reject people now. I never like people, but I only have a certain amount of space in things.
Yeah.
Uh, it it makes me see how rejection is just part of it.
Right.
Yeah, it's just part of the gig. But I like to also be someone who accepts as well. And I've rejected. They've come and sent more material in that I've accepted. For
Hmm.
another reading period, and some great friendships have developed because of it. So what I would say in terms of rejection is, by no means take it personally. Um, Never take rejection personally because it's not
Right.
right. And with Stone,
Absolutely.
I have boilerplate rejection. They're like form letters, and there's if it's usually because it's not a good fit. So I would say always look at what the journal or magazine. Always look at the past issues to see and always read the submission guides. Right.
So
So
right. So what do you personally look for as an editor of a poetry journal? You just started Stone Poetry Journal. What are your personal preferences as far as the literary input coming in?
well, I've taught poetry for about 25 years, nearly 30, 27, I think it was since grad school. And I also used to edit another journal called And Or that it was about 5 years ago. No, it was 10 years ago, and it was for 5 years. It was from 1910 to 19, not from, I'm older than I look. It was from 2010 to 2015. And I am used to reading poetry. I'm used to, seeing what I think is good poetry. I really don't have. I like it to be organized.
Hmm.
I like there to be a form to it. I like there to be a structure of sorts. Um, I like language that is, I guess you would call it cerebral. Uh, I
Right.
don't. I don't like the shock poem too much.
Hmm.
There are all these. There are a lot of Bukowski wannabes.
Yeah.
There was one Bukowski and there was one
Hmm.
Rollins, right? Um,
Yeah, I agree.
so I mean that it has its place.
Mhm.
I'm also not all that into the overtly avant-garde for this for Stone.
Right.
There's a dog in the back. That's
It's
Murphy,
okay.
Golden Doodle.
I like dogs.
Yeah. Dogs are wonderful. I like. Uh, I like poems that are complex, but I also
Mhm.
like the ones that are like the silver ladle. That
Mhm.
if you have, you're familiar with the metaphor, the analogy here, that if you have a lot of decorations on a sort of a silver piece, that's easier to do, to make one that's ornate than it is
Mhm.
to make one that's just, smooth.
Right.
I'm all messed up here with the hand
Concision.
gestures because the camera is the other way around. So if I go like this with my left hand, it looks like I'm with my right.
The mirror effect. Yeah, it does that to me too. It is kind of distracting.
Yeah. So I don't know. And my own, the people that I like, the sort of the older voices, the canonical voices. I love Dylan Thomas,
Hmm.
and I really like folks like Wallace Stevens. I
Oh
like
yeah,
him quite a bit, and
modernists.
yeah, modernists. But
Mhm.
also, I like Emily Dickinson.
Right.
I like poems that kind of show you the world as that they teach you how to look at the world. They show you a different. They defamiliarize the familiar and bring you
Hmm.
back in line and see it in a different way.
Absolutely.
But
So
also,
what are?
I just like
Mhm.
the beauty of language too. So if there's a poem,
Yeah.
that's that's nice. So
So what are some of your favorite poetry journals currently in circulation?
the big ones. I mean, I've always liked the New Yorker, but different.
Really? Huh?
Um, you mean like the indies or the?
Just in general, just whatever you enjoy reading. It's currently circulating.
Well, let's see. I like. There was. Let's see. Well, I like the. I like the Ravens Perch because they just published me. I like Eratio.
Mhm.
Uh, what other ones do I like? I like some of the work that Mike Zone does. Shout
Okay.
out to Mike Zone.
I think
Um,
I've heard of him.
yeah, he's really on the edge. I like some of the works of the Cajun Mutt
Hmm.
Press. I'm trying to get everyone in here, but I also like the Paris Review, and I like the.
Yeah.
I don't really have any great preference for this sort of thing. I like ones that have serious work in them.
Right.
Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know if that's helpful or not.
It's a generic question. I guess
How about you,
I
fingers?
guess it's a good answer. You like some of the indies and you like some of the more mainstream. It's a balance.
But how about you, Dustin? What do you like? What say you?
I like let me think. There's a handful. Most of the journals I like. I like Ethos Literary Journal quite a bit. They were out of India. My publisher was publishing that, and they were really good. But they're currently not publishing. Taking I don't know how long hiatus. They're supposed to be back online, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head that I really regularly submit to or anything like that. I just read whatever. I like the Abraxas, but Abraxas is gone too. It went. I think it went under. It used to publish
Hmm,
D.A. Levi and people
sure.
like that. Yeah, those guys. I actually have a letter from the editor there, who was friends with D.A. Levi.
Hmm.
Really happy to get a letter from her when I wrote to them and said I really admired what they were doing. There's a lot of I mostly like the individual writers
Yeah,
that are out there, which
it can
I
really
couldn't.
change the scope of the individual issue of the journals. You can kind of, it's interesting
Right.
to have an overarching mission for a journal, but a lot of it depends on who you get, right? Who
Hmm.
submits to you, and one issue can be very different from another. I mean, I consider myself relatively blessed because I have some really good people. I got something from Maria Nazos. Um,
Hmm. She's
just
wonderful.
a while ago. Oh, she's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I published Rick and John Stanisi. John Stanisi, if if
Mhm.
he's not
I don't
among
recognize the name right offhand, but maybe I've run into it.
but yeah, he was on Prairie Home Companion for a while too. So
Okay. Yeah.
pretty stand up well-known guy.
So I'm curious. This is a question for my personal curiosity. What was your PhD on?
Hey,
Dissertation.
it was in comparative literature,
Mm-hmm.
which is more when I was going through it. Now, they used to say with comparative literature, what is it that what two literatures do you compare? And when I was going through it in the 90s, I got my doctorate in 96. When I was going through it in the 90s, the comparison was between and among theories, right? So that was the big theory age within the the late 80s, early 90s, late 90s, I guess. And now the academy is not so much into theory anymore. In fact, from what I gather, my old department at Stony Brook is no longer comparative literature. They changed it to, I really don't know, so don't quote me on this, even though I'm on live TV. But it's not what it was, right? So academics that changes quite a bit. But my dissertation was on this thing called postmodern textuality, divining the gap, postmodernist textuality in Rambo, Beckett, and the internet. It was fun. I wrote a whole chapter on Derrida and the mob, and the authorial voice of the internet being something that was at once fractured and also brought together as a sort of a solid as a whole in the act of communication, the act of like having a website where voices were invested and brought together, this kind of thing.
Interesting. So do you think social media has... I'm sorry?
I said at least that's what I remember of it. This is going back, I don't know.
Right, yeah, that's like, what, 20 years, 30 years ago? Speaking of the internet, one of the questions I wanted to ask is, do you think social media has done anything for arts discussion at large? There's a lot of arguing, a lot of debate going on, like especially on Twitter, I notice.
I've never tweeted in my life. I really never texted until my wife got me a phone. And this was when I was 46, and I'm 52 now. So, and I can see why people are addicted to this stuff. I can see why people bump into walls, and bump into trees because they have the thing in front of their face all the time. And it's extremely addictive. But I will say that it's been wonderful for poetry, I think. And it's been wonderful for publishing, I think, anyway, because you have something that you have synergy right at your hands, right at your fingertips. You have the ability to publish something. And I put together I put together 2 journals, using the internet, and/or was print mainly, but Stone is completely online. And you can have the whole process. You can communicate back and forth with people all over the world. I was in Thailand once, and I texted my wife, right? And she was able to text back, and I was on a bus in the middle of nowhere in Thailand, and I was able to text back to Long Island there, which is just astounding.
Inconceivable. It was inconceivable when I was growing up. I mean, we just had the video, Nintendo, and the TV. That was my era.
So I think that social media allows you to do a lot more of a different kind of epistolary writing.
Right.
There's a lot more of letters, but they're small, they're short, right? And there's a lot more constant kind of nervous communication among people. And there is a very strong urgency to reply back immediately. And if you're not replying back immediately, then, the world blows up. That's kind of like with Generation Z. Yeah, boom. I hate to break it to you, kiddo, but the world ain't going boom yet. But my Generation Z daughter, I have 2 kids. I have an 18-year-old who's going to a 19-year-old who's going to Skidmore right now up in Saratoga. I love Saratoga, right? And I have a son who's a junior in high school. So I see them doing, all of the social media and such. And mainly what happens with Generation Z is that they can't be ironic about something because everyone's looking at them being ironic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they can't just post a meme. They have to respond in a way that is, like one or two words that shows that this meme has already taken place. So it's like future shock. I don't know whether it's a different way of communicating. It's a different environment, as the media ecologist would say.
Absolutely. So what has teaching poetry versus learning poetry as a student taught you about the craft?
I always ask them whether they hate poetry. I said, how many of you guys hate poetry? And there was always a handful of folks. And then I show that I'm a psychic. And I say that probably all of you have had some bad experience with poetry. And it's probably been with some professor or teacher that you thought you knew what it meant, and you said confidently what a poem meant, and the professor said, no, that has nothing to do with anything. So the trauma, I guess. I think a lot of students have been traumatized by poetry because they think that they have to search for symbols, that they have to search for some meaning, and that they have to guess what the professor is talking about. So what I just say, forget about symbols, which sounds, but forget about symbols. Forget about this sort of race for meaning, this sort of red herring, where you're chasing all over for some obscure meaning. Like I heard a fly buzz when I died, and mourners to and fro. Right? And I asked him what the fly is. I don't feel if you'll recall the Emily Dickinson poem, right? I heard a fly buzz when I died, and I said, well, what is the fly? And I suppose they could say, well, it's the post-industrial complex that is going to its end. And no, I guess it could be, but it's a fly. And when you're dying and you hear the fly buzzing, it's a distraction. Right? So she's a poet who's
not the experience,
life and death.
So you teach the experience of poetry rather than trying to sort of critically and intertextually analyze the poem, like, oh, this represents this, and that all connects to this, and it's more like just experience the poem and relate to it as a human to another human who's is communicating something to you.
Yeah, well, I'll do whatever I can. There's some poems that are more open to that than others. I mean, poetry is the sort of pure expression of language through emotion. The spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings generated.
The maxims of Wordsworth and so forth.
So I don't know. It's I tell them that good poetry communicates.
Absolutely.
Once you realize this, and once you can kind of get into the different language of it, the rarefied language that differentiates poetry from prose, right? The sort of like when you're making a sauce, you reduce something, and so that what you reduce it down to becomes more, more intense.
Right.
Once you realize what it is that the poem is doing, it becomes becomes second nature to understand.
So if we have time for a brief break, we'll be right back with Damian Ward. Hey, you're watching Parrot TV. Our producer is alive and well. You there? Taking a break? Looks like we're going to take he may have taken a brief break himself. So I guess we'll just continue along and wait and see if he comes back. Another question I have. Why did you choose to found your own literary journal?
Power. No,
the will to power.
Yeah, because it's so much at stake. I like interacting with poets. I like interacting with creative people and with writers and such. And I've had such wonderful conversations back and forward with poets. And I like to see what's out there, and I like to make connections and such. And I like to see people published. So I feel as though I'm producing something while also doing my own writing. So I can kind of see from both sides of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you like to share a couple of poems with us?
Sure.
Absolutely. Just remind our YouTube viewers that you can leave comments and questions. Just subscribe to the channel while we're waiting here. Just click that subscribe button. We'll get you guys live with our content anytime we put something new up. Whenever you're ready, Damian.
Okay. The first one is called Fool's Gold. And it was just published by the Raven's Perch. Stooping for river treasure, grocery bag tight under my elbow, hands immersed, shocked in the current's cold, annoyance of snipping minnows at my feet. Everything is valuable at 6. Learning pyrite and mica as other kids learn pterodactyl and T-Rex. Rubs no gold off these rough jewels. Nor does newsprint spread beneath. Idi Amin, Indira Gandhi, and Pol Pot, circa summer 1975. I've still never gained an eye for news. Hunting chestnuts later, helping fabricate our autumn wreaths, a paper bag once more to gather fallen gems when summer burrows closet deep beneath barn coats and worn out scarves, in time too blustery for wading. These days, standing winter deep in February's borrowed land, resting on my shovel to regain my heart, thinking of flowing riverbeds, wondering how long since I've seen a chestnut fall or a stone strike fire. And that's that. Fool's Gold.
Very interesting.
Have you ever seen Fool's Gold?
Right.
No,
Yes. Yes.
I haven't really seen it since I used to live in New Hampshire.
Is it sort of a poem about sort of chasing after illusions through these various distractions, like television media and stuff, and then versus sort of like experiencing the depth of emotion that's inherent in life? That's sort of what that felt like.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, the image that I like most is the guy in his 50s at the end. It doesn't say his 50s, but the guy who's grown up at the end, and he's leaning against his shovel, thinking, what happened in the days when I used to pick chestnuts and see pyrite.
Nostalgia a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, pyrite,
Interesting.
it's the same root as pyromania or fire. The stone that strikes fire is Fool's Gold.
Okay, so that's sort of a linguistic trick you're doing there at the end.
That I throw in, see if it works. A little of this, a little garlic.
A little flash. Interesting.
Flash. Yeah. Shall I read another one?
Yes, please.
All right. It's called, I don't know how many I have a few here. So
okay. 2 or 3 will be fine.
Okay. This is also just been published in Raven's Perch. Saturn Peach, it's called. I first saw you in the exotic fruits aisle of the grocery store as you made your way among brightly colored hybrids, your arm extending. Hey, Seth.
Hey, Seth, how you doing? Yeah, that's nice. That's a very nice. Changed my outlook as reading and writing. Excellent.
Gravity's Rainbow, Thomas Pynchon. All right. Now, where was it? He always interrupted me in my class, didn't
there we go.
Enjoy being a parent. You've just become a new parent a little while ago, Seth. So that's great. Anyway, so I first saw you in the exotic I first saw you in the exotic fruits aisle of a grocery store as you made your way among brightly colored hybrids, your arm extending, choosing which to place in the basket that you wore like a corsage. You must have seen me trying to be surreptitious in the produce. Your eyes rose from the tayberries. You smiled, handed me a soft, flat fruit, and went about your day. Your fragrance blending, lingering with peach, and I breathed deep, a sublime world of plum cots and orangelos. I didn't get your name. We've never had a conversation, nor a stroll along the beach. But I have walked amid the sweet olala berries, the full-bodied orteniques, and when I bite into a ripened Saturn peach, I think of you.
Excellent. What I see there is a combination of sublime sort of ideal intellect with sensuality. You know, the peach and the you know, there's like a lustful, sensual element to that.
Got a lot of lust.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's very much a lot of love. The Literary Corner, brought to you by New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity. Hi. Hi, this is the most amazing collection I have read so far. I'm a reading-aholic. Dustin Pickering, you know me from Parrot Literary Corner. This is the Literary Parrot, available at Amazon.com and its various affiliates. If you have not seen this collection, it's 249 pages of glorious global literature in a contemporary vein. This covers a lot of subjects from the coronavirus to violence on the streets, to love, to romance. Everything you can imagine is in this collection, and you should buy it now. I'll tell you why. It's a collection of unique voices from the Literary Parrot. People have been on our show, have been participated in this, or have been published on our website, newyorkparrot.com. So please, I implore you, buy a copy. Thank you, and please.
Watching the New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
We surprised you there. We jumped right in with a break in the middle of the next poem. Quite all right. Damian, if you want to read the third poem, feel free.
All right.
Thank you.
Am I still there?
Yes.
I just want to say to one and all, tequila. You're lucky that I'm still not up dancing around the living room there. You know, it's
excellent.
Hey,
fun.
I don't know. You haven't seen me dance. Let me see here. Let me read you a couple of experimental poems that were published in Iratio. One's called "Time Was." Remember, these are experimental. Time was, those birds would be cathedrals, laughs the cowlicked lad, while skipping rocks discovered in very hidden places. Now Where did I put that fish? Asks the reluctant pelican, his beak full to brimming with the new world. Don't need but a quarter of an eye, grumbles Harlan, the barrel king, who knows a thing or two about the sun setting in the west. But later, farewells from the lurch-eyed queen. It's off to the hamster wheel for me. And the crowd went wild. Apple pie for everyone.
That's quite interesting. I like the juxtapositions, the shifts, and the various situations that we run into in that. That's a really fun poem. Thank you for sharing that. I think we can do another one, if you want to do another one.
All right. There's a longer quasi-political one. I don't know if we have time. It's an imitation of, or it's a parody, I guess, an homage, I guess, to Wallace Stevens. If I don't know how much time we have left.
I think we can do it.
All right. So can I read a shorter poem and then that one after that?
We can do that.
Okay. So one is called, here's one called, that was published by Rat's Ass Review, which is a more serious journal than its name might let on, if barely. Hello to Roderick. I cannot tell you that the moon sheds tears. I cannot tell you that the moon sheds tears, and if I did, you might not listen. Ours is not a lyric age, and poets no longer sing of beauty. Though yesterday they lauded their own youth, condemned the graybeard for his bald spot, blinked and overnight turned gray, forgetting themselves with other pastimes. The poet always was a backdoor man, snuck in between the sheets at moonlight. Neon stands for moonlight now, and poetry snarls in the alley. But should I tell you that the moon sheds tears, and should you, like my poet's pressing, might we make one more attempt to rescue the mongrel from its torment? Saving poetry there. All right, now this is a little longer. It's 13 parts, but they're small.
Okay.
All right. Are you familiar with 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird?
Yes.
Okay. It's a parody of that.
Okay.
All right. And this is called, it's a little out of date, but I call it a cultural artifact. So this also is just recently published. 13 Ways of Looking at Bernie Sanders Memes, a cultural artifact. One, and you should all go and look at 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird to see where I'm doing the parody. One, or the homage. One, among many shivering senators, the only warm things were Bernie Sanders' mittened hands. Two, I was of three minds, like a meme, of three Bernies riding in a subway car. Three, Bernie gesticulated vehemently to the other candidates. It was a notable part of the debates. Four, a Democrat and a Republican are a meme. A Democrat and a Republican and an independent are a meme. Five, I do not know which to favor, the directness of accents or the directness of assertions. Bernie seated at the inauguration or in a meme just after. Six, social media filled the broad nation with an inaugural icon. The sitting figure of Bernie crossed from east to west, the meme traced in the ethos a relatable curmudgeon. Seven, oh, thin men of Congress, why do you imagine Russian memes? Do you not see how the senator from Vermont walks down the steps to find his seat on the bleachers among you? 8. I know Brooklyn accents and gruff, incomparable cadences, but I know too that Bernie memes are involved in what I know. 9. When a Bernie meme disappears, it parallels the limits of the desire for universal health care. 10. In the sight of Bernie sitting on the rings of Saturn, even the pundits of Discord would smile at the conceit. 11. He flew over Washington in a helicopter. Once a rage gripped him in that he mistook the rising democratic tide for socialism. 12. The country is healing. The senator must be sitting. And 13. It was inauguration morning all afternoon. We were healing and we were going to heal. Senator Sanders sat on a folding chair.
That's interesting. There's a little irony there in some of those phrases. It's quite funny, and it's serious. It makes a good social point. It's a nice poem. Thank you for sharing that.
I hope you got when he flew over Washington in a helicopter. You know who that was?
Flew over Washington in a helicopter. Was that
once the rage gripped him in that he mistook the rising democratic tide for socialism?
Right.
That would be Mr. Trump.
I thought that. I was going to say that. I wasn't quite sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, his whole campaign is about rising tide of socialism. Vote for me, I'll get rid of it, kind of thing. That was his big spiel.
Yeah. I don't know how controversial you wanted me to get there,
but quite all right. Hey, well, about free expression. We actually have a foreign policy show coming up Thursday that we're going to be talking a little bit about fascism, so that'll be fun. A little bit of a couple other things. So, what final words would you like to offer the viewers here in conclusion?
What kind of what?
Final words to the audience as we conclude the programming for today.
Thank you for listening. I like to read, and I think that Dustin does a fantastic job. We could all
thank you.
A round of applause for Dustin and all the people involved with Parrot Literary Corner. I'm trying to look at the names here, and I can't really see. But I think you offer a fantastic service for poetry and literature, and I'm just pleased as punch to be able to participate in it.
Absolutely, and we'll have more viewers and probably here, and we'll have some more guests on in the future. We keep bringing out people, and doing more reviews and making a document of what's going on out there. So if there's anybody you'd like to say thank you, supporters, friends, family that you'd like to do shout out for.
Well, I would always like to say hello to my wife and my beautiful wife Melanie, and my children Emily and Liam, and my poet friends Rick Christensen and Dean. And I don't know. I sound corny, but just anyone who's encouraged, poets for publication and such. It's kind of a rough field out there. So whoever it is that is supporting the arts and who is involved in poetry and publishing and this kind of thing, I think you're doing a wonderful job if you help people to be published and broadcast. And now I'm just babbling.
Quite all right. I babble all the time. That's what I do for a living. I don't get paid, but I do babble quite a bit. But thank you for joining us today, Damian. It's been really pleasant talking to you. Thanks, guys, all you viewers out there for tuning in today. Now we had Damian. He was an excellent guest. We just talked a lot about poetry and Bernie Sanders' Mittens, if you caught that. And that was a very charming poem. Thank you for sharing that very humorous poem. And also, if you are viewing right now and you have not subscribed to our channel, I invite you to. It's a wonderful opportunity to be notified when we go live, which we will do every single day. So if you want to also support this program, we can donate to us at this paypal.me/nyparrot. Just any amount you feel preferential to. We can deal with $6,000 or $5. We're not really preferenced. So thank you very much for viewing, and thanks to our guests. And we're doing Parrot Series 2, the Literary Parrot Series 2 here pretty soon in December. So keep an eye out for that. And again, please subscribe if you haven't already. Just hit that subscribe button. It doesn't hurt anybody. It doesn't hurt your computer. It doesn't hurt your screen. Just push that subscribe button. Boink, boink, boink. And read some poetry and get out there and get published. I mean, gosh darn it, this is a tough reality we're living in with poetry. To get yourself published. That'll be a wonderful opportunity for you to get in the world. If you're not publishing, if you're not getting published right now, go out and publish. So find a place, use Submittable, New Pages, or Poets and Writers, pw.org. Look at their website and find some good journals that will suit you. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon. This has been Parrot Literary Corner.